Car chases are dangerous and unpredictable. Viewer discretion advised.
We are following breaking news right now. A carjacking suspect leading police on a chase. They are driving a children's hospital bus. Right now they are in North Hollywood. We want to go right up to Desmond Shaw and Sky Cal here with the very latest. And Desmond, I understand this is a children's hospital transport bus.
Yeah, how weird is this, Chauncey? Pursuit number 3 of the day we're covering now as we just got off the northbound 170 at Victory Boulevard, and we are now through North Hollywood. We had heard that this began in the Hollywood area, which is where Children's Hospital is, of course, off of Sunset in Vermont, as we circle back around now, headed southbound on the 170. So a little kind of a loop-de-loo right there. Now, the at least good news is that we believe that only the suspect is on the bus, kind of having a hard time controlling this thing right now. This is a carjacking, they're saying, so they may have, forced this vehicle away from the driver, but we do not believe anyone else is aboard the bus right now as we are back on the freeway. We've been on and off the 170, kind of hanging out in the North Hollywood area. Oh, no,
Whoa.
What is he doing? Getting off here and doing some off-roading now,
wow.
Right off of the Oxnard. Oh, my goodness, I can't believe he didn't get stuck right there. But this bus really being tested now as he's on the wrong way here on this on-ramp. How terrifying for all these people getting off at Oxnard Boulevard. Wrong way driving here now on the Oxnard off-ramp. Really, really crazy stuff. Wrong way back onto Victory. So, sorry, that was actually the Victory on-ramp there from the 170. This one just took a really wild turn, Chauncey and Mike.
Yeah, that could have been very dangerous, especially when you're in a car like this, a heavy van like this, Mike.
Right, and that eliminates any chance of a pit maneuver. They're not going to try that with this high-profile car. And again, this did start in the Hollywood area. We believe it was stolen from Children's Hospital LA as we ditch on a side street here off of Victory. I was watching and listening. They went up into the Burbank as we ditch on a side street here off of Victory. I was watching and listening. They went up into the Burbank area, went all the way east rather, into the city of Burbank on the 134, then came back westbound on the 134, northbound on the 170, where we've just been doing this kind of dance up and down the 170. As Sky Cal was getting overhead, they were northbound 170, southbound 170, northbound 170, and that's kind of what we just saw right as Desmond got overhead, now into the neighborhood here in the Valley Glen area off Bel Air and Gilmore Street. Luckily, though, as Des mentioned, nobody on board. We do know that this bus holds 25 passengers. There are not 25 passengers on board. And as Desmond also mentioned, this is a carjacking, not a straight stolen, meaning that the car or the vehicle was taken from somebody who was in possession of it. That's the difference between what's called a straight stolen, is if you just steal a locked car that nobody's around, or a carjacking, which is it was occupied by somebody at the time it was taken.
And in the beginning with police and their response, it had to be, just a priority just because it's a children's hospital bus, and the fact that families or children or someone sick could be on this bus.
Right, and if you've ever driven by, actually happened to drive by it today, Children's Hospital, there are a lot of these types of transport vans. That's what they do. They're near there. The whole goal of Children's Hospital is try to help kids that are sick and need care, and this is one of their means of doing so. But this one was obviously in use at the time, or at least someone was nearby it with the keys. It wasn't a situation that was parked. So that makes it all the more concerning. But again, Children's Hospital right there off Sunset in the East Hollywood area.
And Desmond, I want to go back up to you. Where did this carjacking happen? The original carjacking of this van.
Well, we had heard about it in Hollywood. We did not hear the exact location of where exactly it was taken. That was the first that we had heard. So I wouldn't be surprised if this was taken from the hospital itself, as we're on Van Owen right here. You might have to bear with us because, of course, we're on the final approach for Burbank Airport, and we do have some traffic coming in. So our shop may, hopefully we can stick with this one. But look at this 60 miles an hour with this massive thing that's just hurling down the road like this in the center lane right here at the end of rush hour. Really, really scary. And this person, just seeing how they're trying to drive this bus, it really seems like they don't have hardly any experience driving a bus right now. We just saw them obviously trying to drive like a 4x4 on that in the embankment there of the Victory on-ramp, which was ridiculous. And now they're driving it like a sports car. 50, 60 miles an hour westbound Van Owen here as we make our way through a Valley Glen. I mean, we've had some close calls with this one, so this is definitely a scary situation, not just because of the nature of the vehicle, but because it really seems like the driver of this vehicle has almost no idea what they're doing driving this bus.
Yeah, Des, close call indeed, especially that one. There was another one right there, especially that one when he got off the freeway, when the suspect got off the freeway, sort of off-roading, like you said, and was going on the wrong side of the road, barely missing several cars coming up that road.
And really quick, Chauncey, I am listening to some radio traffic about.
We're southbound on Fulton Avenue, just one lane in each direction. Sorry about that, Mike. Let me toss it to you. I'm having a little bit of a communication problem.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, we're looking at, those are North Hollywood units now that are behind it, Chauncey. So Hollywood units have swapped out, and now there are North Hollywood units behind it in this chase. And I am listening to CHP. Because we've gone up and down the freeway so many times, CHP is coordinating something near the freeway in case he comes back there, as you see the LAPD helicopter overhead. And what's interesting, they are not in tracking mode, which is what we saw earlier in the 4 o'clock hour. We saw that pursuit of that stolen car, that they went into tracking mode and ultimately discontinued the chase altogether because of the wild driving. This time, North Hollywood units right behind it, not in tracking mode. And again, spike strips are probably a good choice here. Pit maneuver, not going to happen just because of the high-profile nature. And then, of course, right now we're on such narrow streets that wouldn't be safe to do anyway, Chauncey.
Yeah, and this area, you got to wonder why this area, starting off in Hollywood and him, doing circles, if you will. And now in this area, we've seen him drive up to 70 miles per hour. Now this suspect down to 30 miles per hour, driving a children's hospital bus now in North Hollywood. And North Hollywood units are behind the suspect right now. They are not in the tracking mode. We understand this was a carjacking that possibly started in Hollywood, but this is a children's hospital bus now in North Hollywood. And Mike, we were talking about just this bus, and at this point, when you're talking about stopping this suspect, the spike strips is pretty much the only option at this point.
Yeah, he either gives up or they spike him. But other than that, that's kind of what they're chosen with here. Now, if this was a, not that this isn't a serious crime, but if this was an armed suspect or something like that, very long term, you would see maybe them bring in armored vehicles to kind of box them in and do that kind of thing. I would be surprised if we see that here. They'll probably just let it go and try to spike him until it's done. But very much likes this area. This is the longest he has been in any of these areas. Came through Hollywood, up the 101. He even actually may have paralleled the 101 and then headed out east, into the city of Burbank, and then came back west, and then has been doing this circle around the North Hollywood, Valley Glen area, Valley Village area for quite some time. And Des, sounds like you're back with us?
Yes, I should be back with you now. Communications have improved, and I'll just tell you guys, we might be. I mean, we'll see. Look at that, up on the curb again. This person has no idea how to drive a bus and how to navigate corners with a vehicle that is this large and has this kind of turning radius. Clearly, they've been up on curbs and was doing some off-roading. I'm surprised that the tires have held up as well as they have. But I was going to say, it seems like anytime we have an oversized vehicle like a semi or a bus or a U-Haul or something like that, we have to settle in for the long run because these can last a very long time. The hope is that this thing didn't have very much gas when it was taken, and the way that they're driving it, they're definitely getting some horrendous gas mileage right now, probably in the single digits. Definitely a heavy vehicle as we're right by Valley College here, southbound on Burbank Boulevard, Coldwater Canyon at Burbank, where you could have some pedestrian traffic out here. We're going to be right by the Orange Line busway as well. So right on the south end of Valley College. Let's see here, making another U-turn here, flipping that bus back around.
Guys, we also
away from Valley, and then go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, spike strips or him running out of gas or him ruining the car on his own.
Right.
I mean, that move through the off-ramp there definitely could have hit something.
I was just about to say, doesn't it make you think that possibly this pursuit suspect is a bit younger? I've seen him hit just the curb, just driving regular, hitting the curb 3 times, and then we saw that sort of off-roading move. It makes you think maybe this person is a bit younger, and this is, a joyride, if you will.
And brazen. I mean, I wouldn't drive, my car down the side of the Victory off-ramp like that, let alone right here you see on the right side of your screen, let alone this kind of big car here. And, North Hollywood units are asking now Hollywood units to take back over since this was their chase to begin with. So they're trying to coordinate that right now. So we may see a swap out of units as we continue to watch this chase, Chauncey.
All right, thanks a lot. Once again, you are watching this chase right here, a Children's Hospital bus now it was in North Hollywood, then in Hollywood, then back to Burbank, and now, Des, let's go back up to you. Where are we now, Des, and what are you seeing from your vantage point? We see, oh, there we go. We see the van back in sight.
Yeah, southbound now on Whitsett, so kind of on the border of Valley Village and in North Hollywood, southbound towards Sherman Oaks as well. If we continue at this pace, we're basically getting into Sherman Oaks at this point, headed down towards the 101 freeway. So just kind of jogging around this area. You know, you're talking about the driver being younger, Chauncey. We'll see if we're at any point able to get a good view of the driver through the windshield, but we certainly hope not as young as the suspects in that last pursuit with that stolen Kia. They looked like they weren't even old enough to drive.
Right.
So
and by the way, they weren't, Desmond. I talked to LAPD on that one. They were all underage, and the 3 that ran into the building on that one were taken into custody.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, I tell you, the older you get, the younger everybody seems, but I could tell that those were some young kids in that pursuit. I got a glimpse of this. It looked to be an adult male, but we'll see if we can get a better view at some point. But just so incredibly bizarre. You know, we see people stealing huge SUVs. Obviously, we talk about Kias. Last night, I think we were dealing with a Rolls Royce at the end of a pursuit. But, you know, a children's hospital van just seems, you know, craven, for one. And the two, I mean, what are you even doing? This is a vehicle that sticks out like a sore thumb, is not maneuverable. So my pilot Dylan think he might be going into a dead end right now. Let's see what happens with this one. But possibly be the motivation other than, like you were saying, Chauncey, just going out for some kind of joyride.
Yeah, and Desmond, we're going to be right back with you. We want to welcome our viewers right now to this news, KCAL News at 8 o'clock. We are following this hospital bus pursuit, this children's hospital bus pursuit. We're told by police this might have started in Hollywood with a carjacking. We know the suspect has been in North Hollywood, then Burbank, and now he's headed towards Sherman Oak. We do know that there is one person in this transport bus. We also have been told that we know 25 people, 25 passengers can be on this bus, but we're told that it is one suspect in this car. At some times, very dangerous maneuvering on the road, even coming off the freeway and off-roading, if you will, like Desmond said, and then going the wrong way. Here's a shot right there that I'm talking about. Going here off of the freeway and getting on this side ramp, but it's the wrong way. Cars were coming up the opposite direction here. So this right here, this moment could have been very dangerous. We want to go back up.
Oh boy.
We want to go back up to Desmond Shaw, and there's another call right there, a close call right there, Des.
Yeah, right through a red light there as well. We haven't seen too much of the blowing through the red lights, but that was a very close call. Coldwater and Riverside in Sherman Oaks, definitely a busy intersection. And we're at that time of the day at sunset where there are a lot of folks out here walking their dogs. That's definitely what I would be doing right now if I was not covering this pursuit right now. So this is, you know, really just a heightened sense of danger when you see this out here with someone who is having, like I said, a lot of issues with this bus. So I would not be surprised at all. Wow. Okay, so my pilot Dylan just hearing some comms here. It sounds like, hard to believe, they may be terminating the pursuit on the ground, or at least going back into tracking mode. They're going to keep the helicopter overhead on this one. But boy, I don't know, Mike. You know, sometimes when these pursuits get really dangerous.
So I was just listening to that too, Des, and I just heard 15L30, which is the North Hollywood sergeant, asking for units that were involved in the pursuit to meet with the watch commander so that they could be, you know, document their involvement. Is there any, I mean, there was talk of Hollywood units taking it back over. Are there any units on the ground at all right now? No.
No, not since we heard that. As we wind out, we don't see any at all. I mean, this is, you know, definitely a lumbering vehicle. So we'll see if, you know, if this person drives into a dead end, or if this thing runs out of gas or whatever. Hopefully, then, you know, it shouldn't be too hard for them to get units in place. But the problem when they give them, as we saw earlier, you know, some suspects only need 20 or 30 seconds without any police behind them, as we now are getting into a parking lot. But they don't need very much time to be able to ditch the vehicle and then get out and run into a neighborhood where it's really hard to find them, as they make a mysterious U-turn back out onto Woodman. Let's see, looks like he's setting up wanting to go left, but no, he's going to go right. I mean, this person is aimless. They don't really seem to have any plan on getting away, but their brash driving has, at least gotten the LAPD to back off from the ground. But the helicopter so far will be sticking over this one as we are on Woodman, and we'll see how this affects this suspect's driving now that they shouldn't see any flashing lights in their rearview mirror.
And Des, when we talk about this driver and his maneuvers, the suspect's maneuvers, there's been a lot of turning around, a lot of U-turns, and not really knowing where they want to go, which is why earlier I said, this looks like some kind of joyride. This person might be a little younger.
Possibly, or just, they might be under the influence of something in a really poor state of mind. I mean, I would think that if you're taking, a children's hospital bus, that you definitely are dealing with some major issues there. Right. So, as we make our way out of kind of Sherman Oaks back towards Valley Village and towards Van Nuys here, northbound on Woodman Avenue. I mean, at least now rush hour is essentially over at this point as we're into the 8 o'clock hour. I mean, it's always busy in LA, but not nearly as busy as it would have been a couple of hours ago. Even using the turn signal, so strange on this one, especially with all of the wild driving that we've seen. So we just kind of have to see what where this person wants to go. Burbank Boulevard now, so now we're headed towards Van Nuys and the 405 freeway, the Sepulveda flood basin and beyond. But there's really been no rhyme or reason. We're well away from where we first heard this pursuit going on. So really just kind of hoping, like I said, that there wasn't a lot of gas left in this truck and that it's going to run out, or excuse me, maybe with all the crazy driving we'll see, maybe they'll lose a tire at some point. But that presents a lot of danger too. I mean, if this person suddenly loses a tire and spins out, which we actually saw in a pursuit yesterday, that could end very poorly as well. So the danger continues, even though there are no black and whites directly behind this driver. They don't seem to really be chilling out so much as far as the way they're driving. Yeah,
I don't. I was going to ask, do you see any Hollywood? I know they were talking about switching over from North Hollywood units to Hollywood units, but we're not seeing any police behind this suspect.
Yeah, none at all. None at all at this point. Slowing down at least at this red light. Let's see what they do. Nope, they decide to go through that as well. So again, I was talking about this on an earlier pursuit too. It's just so hard for law enforcement when they back off, in the interest of public safety, but then it's like sometimes it doesn't even matter. These suspects are still agitated. They're wanting to get away. They're probably, detecting the helicopter overhead. So they want to keep eyes on this person. They want to bring him to justice, but then you back off the units on the ground, which gives the suspect the advantage, and then they continue to run through red lights and endanger people. So, what do you do when you're the authorities? It's such a tough thing for them to have to deal with here. Burbank and Van Nuys Boulevard, another very busy intersection, going to be turning into the downtown. We're by the Van Nuys Courthouse now, making this northbound turn onto Van Nuys. Let's just hope that they're headed somewhere where they want to ditch the vehicle and get out and at least end the danger to the public.
Hopefully so, and hopefully that happens here soon. Yeah. We want to go over to the desk with Mike Rogers.
No, Chauncey, I just wanted to build on what Desmond was saying. I was just actually on the phone with LAPD that did confirm to me that they did discontinue this chase. L90, that's the watch commander of Hollywood Station 6L90, determined that they didn't want to chase it anymore. It wasn't worth the public risk. There was a lot of radio communication back and forth about, is the carjacking verifiable? Are there witnesses? All kind of things that would lead them to say, okay, but now we've got a unit. Look at that, Des. We've got a unit that's not lit up, that's behind it. Yep. If you can see the back of the cop car, I can tell who that is. Actually. Now we got a bunch of units actually pulling in. Is that 15 on the top? That could be. A couple of back there. No, that's 9. That's Van Nuys. So Van Nuys units, who may not be even aware that Hollywood and North Hollywood were chasing this thing, now could potentially get involved in it as well. So we'll see if the Van Nuys watch commander wants to get involved in this. But yeah, as you were talking about, Des, I mean, that's exactly what happened. They weighed public safety versus what the want is and what they could verify was happening. and they, based on that information, decided to discontinue it. But now we're in a different division. Now we're in Van Nuys division, and those units are getting behind it. Right. So we'll see if they actually chase it.
And Des, what is this? Is this a parking lot? I saw the suspect go through.
Oh, we got lights on that patrol car, Des. I think this is back to a pursuit.
Yes. Yep, I think so. I think so, Mike. Yeah, we do have so Van Nuys. I don't even know if I imagine they were listening to the radio traffic there. But look, and now the craziness again. So, I mean, he had calmed down maybe a little bit, but now you see he sees those lights and now kind of starting to panic again. But you just really hate to see the kind of insane driving that we saw with a vehicle this large that is capable of doing a lot of damage to people, and then as essentially. Almost in a sense rewarding bad behavior by letting them go. But it is such a tough thing for law enforcement because if this did end with an innocent person getting injured or worse, the authorities a lot of the time for right or wrong end up bearing the blunt of the blame for it. So it's just such a tough situation for law enforcement as we blast through another red light, at least slowing down a little bit as they're going through the intersection. But we're right by Van Nuys City Hall, the big government complex right there, right by Van Nuys Station, which is attached to that courthouse, if memory serves. So, yeah, let's see what the next move is here. But there are definitely some units involved in this one, at least these two in the pursuit. One right by there, as we are getting right by the courthouse now, guys.
And Mike, we talk about how this chase was discontinued earlier. Saying it wasn't worth the public safety risk, but we do see now Van Nuys being a little more aggressive following this pursuit suspect. What do you normally see out of Van Nuys as far as the temperament and how they handle situations like these?
Yeah, so I mean, Van Nuys is still LAPD, so they still have the same kind of policies and procedures that North Hollywood and Hollywood do. However, each division has their own watch commander. Each division can weigh the risks and benefits for themselves. Sorry, I'm just listening to see now they're talking about whether or not they want to stay in it because they're talking about mention of a weapon and trying to figure out if a weapon was involved in this. But anyway, he could be driving a little bit more slowly now, which gives Van Nuys a little bit more comfortability to chase him. We're not seeing the incredibly high speeds that we were seeing a little while ago. We're still seeing high speeds as we duck behind these buildings right now. But, even Chauncey, when they weren't behind him, he was still driving very, very recklessly, even though he wasn't being chased.
And Mike, do you have any information as to the how this all started as far as the original carjacking? Because when you talk about Children's Hospital bus and a pursuit of this bus, we have to look at this bus and what it's used for. A lot of families use it. We know that the hospital uses it to transport families and transport victims and people who are sick. So how did this all start? I'm wondering where, maybe at the hospital?
That's kind of what it sounds like. That's the conversation that's being had right now as officers from Hollywood are meeting with the victim to sound like trying to get some more information. And you'll notice, and Des, you had a wide shot there, there are no units behind it. 9L90 has spoken with 6L90 over in Hollywood, and 9L90 has now discontinued the pursuit as well. So now we are back in a situation where we are monitoring from the air only as we traverse through the streets of the valley. The airship is going to keep calling it for what they call officer safety, just so that officers are aware of where the car is. But the watch commander over at Van Nuys Station has discontinued this chase, just like the watch commander over at Hollywood Station. So we'll see. If he gets near a freeway, CHP was all about picking this up. So CHP was trying to get involved when they were on the 170. The problem was he wasn't staying on the 170 for CHP to get involved. But look, those are the concerns. Right where Desmond just passed, that was a soccer field. There were families. There was a food truck. That's their concern, is that if they're chasing this guy and he's driving this recklessly, he could potentially injure somebody. And LAPD at this point, now 3 watch commanders, do not think it is worth the chase.
Right. And Desmond, this area, he seems like when he's... And I know you're trying to get eyes on the suspect, but this area, he seems like to be going on the side streets, and then now he's just focused here in the Van Nuys area. He's focused on those side streets, right, Des?
Yeah, pretty focused in these narrow side streets. It's kind of a dense area, lots of apartment buildings, lots of parked cars, fairly narrow streets right in this area. And is the suspect headed somewhere. They've been on a very annoying trajectory for us because they continue to kind of stay along the final approach for Burbank Airport, which fortunately there's no inbound traffic at the moment, as we give you a pretty decent look here at this driver. And yeah, it's someone wearing a yellow shirt, looks to be an adult male, I believe, who is driving this. As we're now back out onto Van Nuys Boulevard near a massive homeless encampment right there on the other side of that vacant lot. Up here by AC Goji, very cool Korean barbecue restaurant I can vouch for. Van Nuys and Sherman Way, one of the busier intersections in the valley. I mean, Sherman Way, practically like a mini freeway here in the valley. So now we're headed up towards Panorama City, the old GM plant, we call it. We'll go underneath the Metrolink tracks if we continue going this way. There are definitely some dead-end streets up here if the suspect gets off of Van Nuys. And in fact, they nearly turned into one earlier when we were back in the North Hollywood area. He was over by a park, but he went right instead of left. Would have been interesting to see what would happen if they get into a situation where they might be cornered. We don't know just exactly how desperate this suspect is going to be as they're forced to stop for that traffic. But you see a lot of people out here walking around. As we continue northbound, we are basically getting our way into Panorama City now at this point.
All right, Des, thank you. I want to go back over to Mike Rogers. And Mike, we talked about Van Nuys and North Hollywood, both of those units discontinuing the chase. Do you think the route had anything to do with it? At one point, you talked about families being out, right, and the public safety risk just not worth it.
Yeah, the streets that he was driving on, the way he was driving on those streets, but then also his clear intent and disregard for anybody, really. I mean, that move that we saw getting off the freeway, I think, is, you know, kind of one of those things where they really realize that this person is willing to do whatever they think it takes to get away, and that includes driving like that, driving the wrong way on the off-ramp. That was something that the LAPD really didn't like. And then when we were on those surface streets, just going incredibly fast. Even they went into tracking mode, and that's what's interesting here too, is they did try tracking mode as we come up on this bicyclist here, but they did try tracking mode. Tracking mode didn't work. He kept driving the way he was driving. Then they went back into pursuit. Then they went back into tracking. And they tried these moves to try to get this guy to slow down and to not drive like he's being chased. And kind of no matter their tactics, he still drove that way. Even when he wasn't being chased, even when they discontinued the chase altogether, he continued to drive like that. Chauncey, I think this is the first time that we've actually seen any kind of calm speed limit, even under speed limit driving during this whole thing. As we pass, we're in Panorama City now.
Right, and
yes, we're right by the plant. Sorry, Chauncey, we're right by the plant, a really large shopping center right here. And because are we out of stop? Because this was going to lead into a dead end anyway. Stop. Let's see if they're going to get out here. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, out running. All right. Well, that's good news for everybody else. Out and running with a backpack into the Home Depot right here, into the parking lot anyway. Yep. Well, you saw LAPD. They're aware. Maybe he wanted to stop and get some flowers there. He's in the gardening section. He's going to run into the Home Depot. And this is the unfortunate thing when there's no black and whites behind them. He's wearing a yellow shirt, which will kind of stand out, but now he's going to be inside here blending in with probably a lot of people. Here comes LAPD, but so they're going to get in here pretty quickly. But like I said, sometimes all you need is 10 or 20 seconds. You know, there could be rear emergency exits here where the suspect could try to hide. We all know how massive Home Depot stores are. Just a lot of ways, unfortunately, for the suspect to get away.
And Mike, we've seen this where it doesn't take but about 20 seconds for that suspect to get into a building or to get somewhere and just try to blend in once the units or once police do get there.
Yeah, and you know, the good news, Des mentioned, he is wearing a pretty fluorescently yellow shirt. So hopefully that will help, you know, give him away. The other issue for him is that these corporate, you know, box stores are well equipped with security cameras. And that is the first thing that these officers will do is they'll immediately go to the security office, ask them to start pulling footage, and then they'll be able to kind of track his movements. Now, the other hope, too, is that I know that there's a neighboring business next door. Hopefully that there's no access between the Home Depot and that business that's next door. Didn't look like it. Usually they don't share a wall like that, but you know, that's something they'll have to be wary of too. And we've only got one unit here. So you've got one unit with 2 officers that have run inside after the suspect, but they're still waiting on getting backup and additional units. And eventually they're going to want to set up a perimeter and have some officers to the rear of the Home Depot as well. Make sure, as Desmond mentioned, he doesn't pop out a back door. But Okay, here comes the second black and white racing through the parking lot there, but not nearly as many units as they would have had if they were even in tracking mode.
Right.
Even if they were in tracking mode, they would have had 5 units, but further away. So it's just, again, that's the downfall of going into tracking or discontinuing a chase.
Des, and I want to try to point out exactly where the suspect left the van. Did he just leave it on the road there beside the Home Depot?
He did.
There it is.
Parked
Okay.
right over here along the curb. Yeah, so this is Arminta Street. So we're very close to the Metrolink plant, tracks and the Plant Shopping Center, sprawling shopping center here on the border of Van Nuys and Panorama City. Here, as you see, a unit that's probably going to come to the rear to try to create a perimeter. That's why I was keeping a wide shot to see if we saw anybody come out of maybe an emergency exit or something here in the back. You would have to assume, though, they would probably have to pass by a lot of employees and look awfully suspicious if they were going to attempt to do something like that. But I mean, there's so many places inside a sprawling store like this where they could hide from officers. As more officers continue to arrive, they're going to make entry now. As you see them rushing in now, they feel that they have enough officers to safely go in and try to find this person. And actually, my pilot Dylan hearing they may actually have made contact with this person, and they might have him pinned down. So let's give it a little bit of time here. Maybe we'll see somebody coming out in handcuffs.
And Mike, I want to go back over to you. At one point, you were hearing chatter about a possible weapon involved, or if the suspect had a weapon or not.
Yeah, and that's what they were at. So that's when they were trying to weigh whether or not they should keep chasing this, right? Because everything that adds to it is another charge, and that's what they're weighing when they decide, and of course with public safety, what was the original thing here? And when they were asking about a weapon, and nobody confirmed basically that there was a weapon. There was just questions about whether or not, because especially when you're talking about a carjacking, was it taken by weapon or was it taken by what's called bodily force, which is just, hey, give me the car, or threat or fear of a threat, that kind of thing. So yeah, it didn't indicate that there was a weapon. I think that if there was, they probably wouldn't have backed off the way they did. But now here we are. This is now the 4th division that we're in. We're now in LAPD's mission division.
And situations like these, when you're talking about a Home Depot, there's been a chatter of a gun, officers and how they handle this, how they go inside, especially, if you will, blindly, because this pursuit suspect ran into this Home Depot, and you can just bet that he just tried to do what he could to blend in. But we're also talking about a person who's accused of a carjacking and stealing a children's hospital bus from North Hollywood. And go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, sorry, Des. Contractor side is where they're saying they've got the suspect proned out, which is the north side of the building, is what they were just saying. Well, there's that guy in the yellow shirt. I wonder if they had the wrong guy right there. Yeah, because that's what they were just saying. But then as I was looking at your picture, they're all moving back over to the gardening side, where this where they originally went in with him. But that's what the airship was just saying, is that an officer on the ground had him proned out in the contractor side. So that's where they were kind of directing people, but yeah.
Maybe that was a case of mistaken identity with that bright thing that they had.
All right, I just heard a click.
There he is.
There we go.
There he is.
There he is. All right, they got the suspect. So they ditched the. That might actually be a lady.
A woman.
They were wearing that long sleeve yellow shirt, but like so many suspects do, they went for a costume change, ditched that to try to, not stand out so much. But now we see they believe that they have their suspect here. I can't tell if that's a guy or a gal, but they believe that they have the person perpetrating this. Is super dangerous pursuit. Just can't believe some of the stuff we were seeing with the off-roading there on the off-ramp there, Victory Boulevard. Super dangerous stuff. Fortunately, no one injured in all this commotion.
Well, there we go. This carjacking suspect taken into police custody. The children's hospital bus that was allegedly taken in North Hollywood is now there in this area, parked right there beside this Home Depot. After this suspect runs inside of this Home Depot, tries to get away from police, but has been arrested and will be taken into police custody. Anything else from you, Mike?
No, I mean, Code 4, as many times as they gave it up, they still managed to get their person in custody.
Got you. All right, and we will move on.